This is your questions, your money, your business, and we want to welcome in Elizabeth Canna of Canna and Company. We were having some technical issues, Elizabeth. It's good of you to be here. Again, I'm so excited you're here because this is, so much about building a business or even starting one is about how you brand it from the get-go. And we have Junior's Cheesecakes here, Junior's Cheesecake, very distinctive packaging. I don't know if you can see it, and it's original when the business was started back in 1950. Orange and white stripes. And Elizabeth, just give us a couple ideas of when somebody's starting a business, what they need to think about in terms of branding themselves and their business.
Well, first and foremost is what's the promise of the product? What is the consumer or the client going to get from working with you? And that should be reflected in your packaging and your brand. A brand is a long-term bond between your customer, your client, and the product and service.
Do people, when we were talking about the mistake that Tropicana made when they got rid of the orange, and now they've gone back to that, but what I hear you just saying is, look, if I'm in the supermarket, I see the orange, I immediately identify Tropicana, I know it's going to deliver because of that orange. Is that the connection that happens with people?
And oftentimes companies rebrand themselves, and you have to be very careful with that when you've been in business for a while. People do connect with all the brand visuals that you've already established. So yes, they connect. It's also what's built in, all the layers behind the brand, the passion behind it. What's the value of the product? What do they get? Most companies, when they get started or in a lot of their marketing, it's not about you. It's what the customer gets from using your product. What's the value?
That's a very, very interesting, that certainly connected with me because people think, particularly if it's a single person business or it's a very small business, that it has to be about the personality, and you kind of lose focus on what you're really doing. You're trying to build a business, and that means connecting with customers, and don't think about yourself, think about who you're trying to reach, right?
And that's one of the best lines is, yeah, it's not about you. If you can keep using those lines, it's not about you, it's about your customer.
We've been working with an interesting, actually brilliant marketing individual who recently told us a story about being in first grade, and you don't necessarily remember what you learned, but you're going to remember the smells and the sounds and the sights and so on. And so making the emotional connection with your customers, and any way you can do that through what you say, what you produce, what your product looks like, and so on, is what's really going to stick.
And the best branded companies I've ever seen are the ones that understand just what Elizabeth told you. Brand is not the logo, it's not the look. It's a contract between you and the customer about what you will never do and what you will always do. The thing that I think makes Alan's statement work is this is a company created by his grandfather with specific qualitative rules. Right. And you respect your grandfather's rules, and you do not try and change them or make them better or sell more. And so you have a wonderful business. It doesn't have to be the giant, biggest business in the world, but it's the real deal. And I think people are looking for the real deal.
Right. What we're putting in the box, the quality of the ingredients, the time it takes to make it, the history, the legend of Junior's is in there. There's nothing more disappointing than thinking you're getting the best and not getting it. So you got to deliver it every time someone takes this home.
Right, every time somebody walks in, or
walks into the restaurant, exactly.
Wait, you want to go to the phones?
Yeah, why don't we? Jay from California, what's your question for us?
Yes, my name is Jay Anthony. I own a comedy club in Los Angeles, California. I started it up with my own capital, me and my son, and we've been doing pretty good. Now we're trying to expand, and I'm trying to find out where do I find money for advertising and to keep the business going. It's been very good, even with the economy like this. People want to go out and laugh and have a good time. So the business is doing very well. I was down for like 2 weeks because I remodeled it. Now I'm opening back up, and it's almost like starting from the ground again. So I need some help in terms of finding capital to help me advertise.
I think that John should buy some of your jokes. Maybe he'd be funnier on air. Okay, first of all, I would look in your own backyard. That's what I do when I'm running short on cash, is I look to see what I can sell that I already have. The second thing I would do is check out virginmoney.com, and I would look at the consumer to business or business to business models in their site. And I would look at Upstart Win, and it's WYN. can.com. Those are two interesting sites. And then, of course, the Small Business Administration now is only requiring 10% collateral rather than 50% collateral on loans. And since you already have an existing business, you're much more likely to actually get a loan from a bank today than you are if you have a new business.
I'm thinking, Elizabeth, he's talking about coming up with money to advertise. Why not try and get the word out there for free rather than trying to raise money?
Exactly. I love that. Yes, some joint ventures in your community and looking at a fellow business owner who is not a competitor but can benefit from the increased audience mutually. So look at what can you do, what kind of money do you need, but think again, what can you do that's distinctive in your community, that's standout, really out of the box thinking and looking at it from a new perspective of who else in your community would benefit from doing a joint venture with you. There's a Entourage and Virgin Airlines did a great promotion together. So think about how advantage that was a joint venture.
Yeah, no, public relations to me is the most cost-effective way to get your word out. I'll just tell you a funny story. About 20 years ago, there was a basketball player, Sean Bradley. He was 7'2", skinny as a stick, and he was trying to gain weight. So I bribed the equipment manager on the 76ers to fill his locker with cheesecakes. So he comes back from practice, he opens his locker, and all of a sudden the cheesecake diet was born. We got millions of dollars worth of free publicity. We were on the cover of the USA Today. We were in the sports section of the Times, all because we had a screwy idea that worked. And those type of things in a comedy club, whether it's a fundraiser with somebody who maybe was out of favor 5 years ago, that he brings back and gets some great press. All of a sudden, he's in the local paper and he's
stunts,
and it cost him nothing.
There are no screwy ideas. There's no such thing as a screwy idea. Go ahead, Liz.
Doing a contest, I've done several national contests, and they are huge successes to draw audience. So who wants to be a comedian? Mom's night comedians, all kinds of interesting things. Run a contest, get people in your community to give prizes. You will have the best advertising you can get because it'll be viral. People will talk about it.
Love it.
Elizabeth, thank you. We have more answers to your questions. Keep the phone calls and email coming in.
We will be back. It's your business, your money, your life, your future. Stay with us.
Your cheesecake.
Welcome back, everybody. Let's go to the phones. Bonnie is on the line from New Jersey. Hey, Bonnie, go ahead.
Hi, how are you today, everybody? My question is for Mr. Rosen. I love your cheesecakes, by the way.
Thank you.
I love them. I love them. And I'm a baker, a home baker. And I've my products are cookies, mainly sugar cookies, and I do a sweet potato pie. I've been told it's a very, very good sweet potato pie. And I do pound cakes. And I have a good following in my little community that I live in. But now I want to take it to the next level, and I'm trying to find a location where I can maybe start up a small bakery cafe.
Right.
So my question is how do I do that? I've been looking in my town for different areas, a spot to put it, and I'm having no luck. So
I'm a big believer in not putting the cart in front of the horse. So what I would recommend to you, so you can build a business from your kitchen, from your home, and start to build demand that way. Then maybe you go out into the local marketplace and you find there's plenty of bakeries out there that are underutilized. And maybe he's got a night shift with 6 hours, and you can go in there at 6 hours at night and bake your products. You have limited costs because he's not going to charge anything because he's happy to take in whatever limited rent he'll get from you. And you start to build the business that way. Then once you've built up some substantial sales and you want your own space, you can afford it and you're going to make it. You're loading the deck. That would be my recommendation.
Anybody want to jump in here?
That's called learning to shave on the other guy's beard, and it's a great way of starting a business. If you can start your business on the other guy's money, that applies to all sorts of things you can do today. We've had on the show here CEO of Overstock.com. They have a wing of their business dedicated to trying to sell individual brands like yours. Foodsy.com is another one that can do the same thing. Your products will ship, which means if you can drop ship a carton of this stuff to someone in a faraway place, you can get distribution that way too.
Elizabeth, Bonnie, she mentioned her sugar cookies, her sweet potato pie, and her pound cake. if she's going to start baking these and distributing them or selling them to a greater audience, what does she need to think about in terms of branding it? Does she need to focus on one of the products initially and kind of make that her specialty and present that? Like, give her some ideas.
Focus on a flagship brand first. Think about it as your overarching brand, and then you'll have different products. She's already got several products. It's going to continue, and have each brand, sub-brand of the product have a personality about them, but it needs to be congruent. Big words, but at the end of the day, it's a matter of coming up with a distinctive Fields cookies, a different type of brand around the products as a whole.
Also, one thing, Bonnie, this is really good timing because there's about a 13.3% increase so far since January in bite-sized desserts. So that might be an area you might want to look into.
How do you know that?
I read a lot of stuff. Also, justforsmallbusiness.com has a lot of tips for people that are in the baking business that want to take it to something a little bit bigger. So I would check out that site.
Alan, are you doing that?
Individual sized desserts, individual bun cakes. We actually have a line of little fella cheesecakes, and individual buns are becoming very, very popular. Kids love them, adults love them. They're portion controlled, and it's just been.
Was
real
this trend
popular.
starting before the recession, or is this kind of a way to satisfy our sadness?
You know what? It could be both. We didn't do it with that in mind, but you could be correct. It could be because that portion size is a little more affordable.
The mass market has also been delivering 100-calorie packets of desserts for kids' lunches, for the calorie counters out there.
Yep.
That can work for Bonnie, too.
It's for the adults too. It's not just for children. It's for dieting.
It's for those of us that want to fit in our
Well, you
clothes.
can eat 10 of them.
Yeah.
So
Right.
That's my problem.
That's my problem.
Right.
Overeating. That's my problem. Go ahead,
When you're building your brand, when you start from, also look at, again, it's not about you. What is your potential, your ideal customer looking for? There was a recent survey of mom-to-moms. 63% of moms don't feel that advertisers, they feel like they ignore them, and a whopping 70% believe that they don't have a clue, advertisers, what moms want. So that's who's going to be buying your product. What are moms looking for right now in this current economy, busy lifestyles? You know, looking at building your brand from touching on your client, your customer's life. What is it in it for them?
Bonnie, I think what's in it for you is that sweet potato pie. That's where I'd put my money.
Another great way to market it, go to the local market. If there's some great market, cut open some pies, sample them on a Friday afternoon when people are most likely to buy a pie, and that's probably the best way to have some success.
I agree with Adam. I think sweet potato pie, because it's not that common. You don't see it everywhere.
Right.
And it is one of the
Wonderful.
most delicious things that you'll ever eat on the planet, next to
great.
Junior's cheesecake. But we're not
And
done
it's
yet.
healthy for you.
Well, sort of.
Sort of.
That's what my grandmother always used to say. Oh, there's not much sugar in it. It's not the sugar I'm worried about. So much more left ahead. Half an hour, so keep calling. 877-249-9626.
Or just email us at yourmoney@foxbusiness.com, because this is Fox Business, the Fox Business Network, the only business network with Saturday hours and a ton of cheesecake.
Your questions, your money, your business, your future, your promise. That's what I'm going to call it. The name just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. All right.
We're all going to get bigger and bigger and bigger because we're going to be jumping into the cheesecake.
I plan on it. I was eating fries at the Mets game, and I'm going to be eating cheesecake on a Saturday afternoon.
French fries sound good right now.
So much does, but you know what sounds even better? Talking to Donna, who's on the phone from Illinois. Donna, go ahead, ask your question. This is not about us, it's about you.
Hi, I developed a product when I played a lot of golf, and I had very tanned body, but very white feet from the golf shoes and the socks. And I could never even cover it up when I was going out to dinner or to work with hose. It always showed through. And so I developed a home or office appliance that you can use while you're watching TV or doing your nails. And it basically is self-enclosed, and you put your feet and ankles in there, and it scans your feet to even them up with your legs. And so I worked on it, took it to patent, prototype, the whole 9 yards. The patent and the manufacturing rights to recoup expenses and to maybe get some royalties.
Anybody? Tell Donna what to do. Danny?
Well, my first thought
By
is
the
not
way,
to
Donna,
sell
this
it.
is not a dumb idea. This is, we kind of giggled, but again, it's awesome because anybody who it spends a lot of time outside, it's not just golf, it's people who play tennis, people who walk a lot, people who live in sunny climates, and it's an issue.
Or even if you hit a tanning salon, you're not really able to kind of turn your feet in the direction that you need to. So I would actually, if it were my product, not want to sell the thing. I would actually look to complementary companies like tanning salons that might be willing, or nail companies, for example, that might be willing to put your product there. So that's where I would go, and John can tell you more about how to sell it.
Do you go to tanning bed manufacturers?
Well, you could go there and license the product to them to manufacture it to supply to the salons, but basically that's where it has to end up in order for someone to turn the click on the money.
Can I ask the caller a question, though? Does the device, does it warm your feet at the same time? Because I'm thinking in winter climates, you might have a dual-purpose device here just to warm your feet up, because that's the worst part of winter for some of us.
Donna, are you still on the phone? I think we lost Donna.
Or you could tan a baby in this thing if it's big enough to fit the baby, because these babies are so pale, you know.
No, but in the winter, and what I'm thinking she's probably created here is some kind of small bulb that you know, like a suntan booth that would tan your feet, but those things get warm. And in the winter, when you come in, you know, people buy the foot warming stuff, the gels you put in your shoes. But if you could come in real quick from work or wherever without having to turn the heat up in the house, but just get your feet warm.
There's also a site, successmanifesto.com, that kind of tells you how to take ideas like this and sell it. So I would check that one out if you're still listening.
Alan, any guidance?
I think
no. Hold on one second, Elizabeth.
I didn't understand the concept exactly, but the first thing that jumped in mind was after skiing, warming feet, but I didn't hear the whole thing.
You and I have been outside a bit, haven't we?
Very pale feet for women are a huge issue because the tanning beds don't hit them, and if you do any outdoor sport, you wind up with insanely white feet. And I worked on a golf course for a summer, and I had feet that were the color of this pad right here.
Well, there's support groups for that, though.
It's an issue. It's a good idea.
I'm not saying it's a bad idea.
Elizabeth, go ahead. You wanted to get in here.
Well, Donna, I think it sounded like perhaps she was ready to package this and have somebody represent her and get what she can, take it to the next level. She really has to ask herself, is she passionate about doing this herself? It's not going to be an easy road, and she really has to be focused on doing that. So honestly, ask yourself, am I passionate about doing this, or should I take this to somebody who can help me package it and sell it?
Elizabeth, I'm just curious, how would you brand it?
I would brand it distinctive to well, I'm very
Fancy
visual,
foot.
and since I haven't seen the product, I would definitely like to see it first, but I would focus on golf, and I'd focus on a couple of those sports, definitely more athletic, and personally, I would be less about packaging, about the potential of it to the buyer, less about the consumer, because they would want to rebrand it themselves depending on what product they'd use it with.
You want to go to the phones?
Yeah, Kevin. Kevin from New Jersey. What have you got for us?
Yes, hi. My name is Kevin. I'm the president of a company called EnviroSafe Systems Technologies, and I developed what they call a tornado deprivation system. Okay, and I'm looking for funds, investors, some kind of government loans, if possible. Okay, or maybe even insurance companies. Basically, down in the 9 states, Tornado Alley. There's a lot of devastation, a lot of deaths. I'm looking for money to actually start a research and development process, okay? Right now it works in a lab, okay? I'm working with Texas Tech University, and they have the largest vortex generator. Right now at this point they're getting it up and running, and I could use some capital to get this.
Are you talking about a device to stop or prevent tornadoes?
Absolutely, yes.
Cool.
And it really works.
Works in the lab.
Basically, I mean, I wrote President Obama about it twice. Haven't got any response from him.
He's busy giving speeches.
Absolutely. And I understand that. I mean, it's his first 120 days in, so I know he's very busy. But I was just kind of curious on what I can look into to get some capital.
How much money do you need?
Approximately, I would say, in a general area of about maybe $3 million.
Who's the customer?
Who would the customer be? Well, it would be the states.
Oklahoma.
Correct.
Ohio, Indiana.
Right. Texas, exactly.
Right.
Mississippi, right.
And there's documentation to support that this works currently?
Yes, yes. I do have documentation. I have it on video also.
John, let me get to you first because, again, this is he still needs to do research and development on
Right.
it. Not any revenue coming in the door, at least initially. What type of funding best fits his needs?
Well, it's pretty clear this is not an infomercial product like some of the other ones we've talked about. This is a wholesale product to a big agency or a state government. I think you're going to get the money to develop this from state agencies. So I'd be looking for the emergency management department in individual states and municipalities and see what they can do for you, because your customer is going to be more interested in doing this because it's not going to be a huge volume product in terms of large numbers. It's going to be a large ticket product for a smaller number of customers.
Which will probably keep the venture capitalists away. So I would go with
Right.
John's route. I was
Right.
thinking about the NVCA because you're in early stage development here to try to find a venture capitalist, but they're going to want the mass distribution, not the single products.
Indeed.
Have you considered looking at an insurance company as a possible partner? They would see they'd have a lot advantages to partnering or helping you get the rest of this funded.
Right, start a little lower than the President of the United States, I think. But again, some incredible ideas all the way around.
Keep your questions and your emails and your phone calls coming. We want to hear from you.
Just so you have it, 877-249-9626. That's the phone number. Or your money at foxbusiness.com.
Also, don't forget that tonight you want to tune in for Liz Clayman's special, The Richest Minds. You can see it tonight at 9 and again on Sunday at 10 p.m. She interviewed the 3 billionaires, the 3 Bs.
Don't want to miss that. It's only here on the Fox Business Network. We're live on Saturdays in True HD. This is not just about starting a business, Adam. It's how to grow it and promote it. And we've got some expert minds here.
That's
One
right.
of the biggest name in cheesecakes in the country, Junior's, is here, Alan Rosen. And on the phone is James from Texas. He's got a question about promoting his business. Hey there, James.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Yes, my question is, I have a self-publishing business for books, and I've recently published a book called Maximum Performance Basketball. It's a training book for students 7th grade all the way through professional players. The book is currently selling well online with Amazon, and I'm looking for the best ways to promote it online using other avenues to reach the masses.
We are too.
Yeah.
If I can,
Yeah, Elizabeth,
I've
go
done
ahead. You
about-
go first. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've got a book coming out in 4 weeks. I've worked on over 29 books for clients, so this is my favorite thing to work on. It's an ebook. It sounds like it's a self-published, but it's also an ebook. So first, I'll get a free chapter online available. Do a lead generation. Make sure that they give you their email address to get the free chapter. You make it your best chapter, preferably the first. Connect with a lot of blogs in that particular niche market and let them help you promote the book. That is key to doing that. Also look at, in that community, how can you get out there and get free copies out of the book to mavens, people who can talk about that. Is it in the sports? Is it in the school districts? It's among the parents. Even if you pass out free books, it actually, the books are passed along. It's the passed along rate that is key.
Okay, I have lots of ideas for you because I do this, I think, a couple
Every
of
day.
hours every day. So first of all, I would jump in every blog and respond that has anything to do with this particular area. Dedicate a specific number of hours every day to doing this. Jump into forums and offer advice, and in your signature line, put a link to your website. Get on MySpace, Facebook, Twitter. I have this running joke with a couple of my Twitter followers about Babb's useless tip of the day. Create a useless tip of the day that happens to refer people back to your website. Use an RSS-based blog so that people can get the feed. Go to ylmp.com, which is a newsletter application. You can have people sign up for a free newsletter on your homepage of your website. Then you basically create a newsletter at the end of every month, send it out to everyone. It can have tips, information, other links. You can feature people who write in, who have read your book and done something with it. You can feature them on your page. And then one of the things that I do that draws a lot of business to my is I write columns for like military.com, entrepreneur.com, and then second, well, not second, what is this, like 20th? Make sure your website is 2.0. I would check out treveragroup.com. This is a company that will help you make your website Web 2.0 based. My company also will do that at thebabbgroup.com. And make sure that you can keep people on your site for longer than 10 seconds. That's the time that generally people will leave. You're not going to make a sale, so you want to keep them on the site for 10 seconds. And then also I would check out half.com as a distribution channel because a lot of people go there for used books. And why not sell your own stuff there and then also sell them on eBay?
I'm at his website right now.
Yeah,
I'm looking at the book.
cool.
The first thing that popped into my head was that my nephews play basketball over at the Jewish Community Center over here on the west side, and I'm thinking, how could you get that book there? Because they would be into this kind of thing, and they're the age group he's targeting.
Well, that's Elizabeth talking about the mavens. If you can get in the hands of the coaches or the parent leaders of the group, you can do that. But this project cries out for using all these social media to get people to talk about it, to drive them to your website to buy it.
Right.
Alan?
I see
and what
something
kind of an endorsements, too? Looking at getting some key members or high-profile celebrities or someone in the community to endorse the book. One thing with newsletters, you have to be careful. They have a tendency to get ignored. So really reaching out to other people who can promote the book for you is that vetted endorsement, and it makes it less about a sale and more about sharing good information.
Yeah, my children participate in basketball clinics, Hoops for Heart, stuff like that. And if you can get involved in clinics like that and get some celebrity pro basketball, I always like to think big.
Yeah, you got
get a celebrity
teams in Texas.
Right, get a celebrity pro basketball player to
Stuff
get behind
with
it.
cheesecake or something.
Well, no cheesecake for this one, but it'll really get the word out and sell some bucks.
Getting the word out. Thank God for the internet. On the phone, let's get another caller. Edwin is joining us from Florida. Edwin, what's your question?
Well, I'm living in the horse capital of the world, Central Florida. And what I have done, I used to work for the Chamber of Commerce, and I came up with an idea to bring back the historic and equine tours of Ocala, Marion County. So the thing is that I have started this venture at least about a year ago, and right now I'm at the threshold of dealing with the Small Business Development Center that we have here, and getting ready to try to see if I can build capital. I have no capital, no assets, and I'm trying to deal with sponsors and things of that nature. I have not taken, at one given time, a tour yet. And like I said, I don't have assets and things of that nature. But the thing is that I do have subcontractors that's lending me buses and things like that of that nature. Of course, I have to pay for them. But I need to build some type of capital to keep these lines running and, keep it going. And plus, I have employees I want to go ahead and hire, which I'm also a minority. Should I abandon the idea of dealing with this? Because I'm getting really tired.
I wouldn't.
No, John, no. We were just we were just looking at each other, trying to decide who should get in here.
Sure.
Dani?
Yeah, well, first of all, if you're passionate about it, I would not abandon it. I would gauge your level of passion to determine whether or not you're going to ditch the idea. If you are a minority, I would check out mdba.gov. That might get you through some of the next phase that you need. I would delay potentially hiring people and look at using contractors only if you don't have a lot of work for them quite yet. And I have a question for you about how much money you need.
About $300,000.
What were you going to do with the $300,000?
Basically, that's for taking care of keeping the lines open, also marketing and things of that nature.
Well, you shouldn't have to pay any money to any vendor you're going to use or contractor in this business because they're sucking air right now in their own businesses. I always like to start with the idea of finding a customer who can not only help me get going, but can also sometimes provide you facilities and other capital-like resources. In this area, who's going to sell your product? You could go to the hotels in the local, the biggest tourist community nearby, go to the convention planner in that hotel or the corporate salesperson in that hotel. They'll be looking for ways of filling out an agenda for their corporate clients because they're trying to sign up the big companies to come down and bring their sales teams and so forth. And you can do the same thing through convention bureaus and other kinds of organizers.
Travel agents, online companies, even Orbitz and those Travelocity, they're creating tour packages to jump off John's idea.
And have you thought about a partner? Obviously, you've done a lot of the work and the sweat equity. Maybe it's something to look at, someone you know, or put the word out that you would like to have an investor or a partner.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Don't give up.
Never give up. Never. Questions ahead. Keep calls and emails coming our way.
We've only got a few minutes left, but we're here for you. Ahead. Only a few minutes left, but we do have time for more calls. Gene is on the phone from Indiana. Gene, go ahead and ask your question.
Yes, it's an honor to speak with you.
Honor that you called, so go ahead, Gene.
Okay. I have an idea to use wind-generated electricity for the public good, and I would like to know how do I protect my idea and possibly apply for a grant to do some research or something of that nature.
Protect your idea.
Protect your idea. Go to uspto.gov. This is the United States Patent and Trademark Office, and click on the provisional patent. That'll buy you a year for less than $200. And then I would go to grants.gov and mdba.gov and check out what grants are available. And there's about $15 million every month available for this type of technology.
John, is it worth investigating whether this idea is already out there already, because so much work is already being done with wind, and how his idea or concept is different than what's already been completed?
There are ways of doing that cost little money, but there's also ways of doing it that cost too much money. So my sense is, Gene, at your point along the way, you don't want to hire $400 an hour lawyers to do your intellectual property work for you. But Dani's got it.
It's free, actually. When you're on uspto.gov, one of the things they're going to let you do, actually require that you do, is to do a free search to see if it's out there already. And then I would also just use Google and do a search. But there are companies, if you Google this, there are companies tons of them that will allow you to look at what copyrights and trademarks and patents are already out there.
Danny, by the way, we have to say, has the hat on, because I've got to throw out a big howdy to everybody. So before it didn't fit in my head. And Elizabeth, just to let you know, I do this every show, so it's not some random weird, I'm exhausted after.
You know. Didn't they used to do that on Hee Haw?
Yeah, Minnie Pearl.
That was it. I
it's Minnie Pearl. Minnie Pearl's howdy.
Well, I'm not sure it fits with your personal brand, but that's okay.
I don't have a brand.
I think everyone should decide their own brand.
Yeah.
But on the phone is Lauren, who called in from California. Lauren, go ahead.
Okay. Well, earlier you were discussing that each small business has a story, and I'm going to get through this really quickly. And my story is the same as millions like me, which the economy had a hard blow in my family. And I've learned through this that I have the responsibility to my peers to not allow our parents' mistakes to happen again when we are adults. And I want to provide this through a financial planning service for teens. And my question is, what necessary steps do I need to take in this particular industry to get my business going at the age of 16?
John?
I would go to, there's a huge industry that delivers financial planning to customers. A lot of it works through the industry that provides brokerage services. I would be looking for a brokerage firm or a financial product firm that wants to solidify their relationship with their customer base and bring your product through to their customers for their children. It's going to have to get delivered to a customer directly by the vendor.
Lauren, you're 16, right?
You're 16, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, cool.
Okay, I would take
Even
a different.
better.
I would take a
Even
different.
better.
Lauren, what do you want? Like, what is it? You want to educate people. That's your goal. And go after people who are your age and start young. Get them inspired.
Definitely. And then when I get to be an adult, my peers' children, because what's lacking in our society is education and personal finance, and I see this every day. And it's
Thank you, Lauren.
and it's just lacking. And I think that's where we went wrong in a lot of the areas, and that's why we are where we are today.
Well, they used to teach this stuff in home economics, and she's onto a great thing.
Well, write a little book and sell it in the way Elizabeth and Danny are talking.
Well,
talk about 529s and stuff like that, and educate
Lauren,
her friends.
I'm curious to hear what Elizabeth has to say, because I think that, one, you could start like with a book. Two, just be a motivational speaker. You can start going out there and speaking to groups of people your age, or frankly, groups of parents.
Yeah.
But Elizabeth, go ahead.
Yes. Exactly. Speaking at schools, it's hard to sell to schools, but going and speaking at schools, I would definitely, I don't know if you like to write or if you feel that you have more of a curriculum or you want to start a blog. Some of the most successful blogs my 19-year-old daughter follows. I personally will put you in touch with the senior editor at Kiplinger's Personal Finance, because they are thrilled to meet young people who have a solid financial background who want to go forward. So you would do an ebook, do a really creative blog, and I love the idea of you speaking. I have purchased a lot of books for my daughters, and the ones that were written by somebody under 20 that was about finance or starting a business, they really resonated with my daughters. So I highly recommend that you get it out there, get a book, get a blog, do what it takes to speak.
And Lauren, next week, I know, and it's in the noon hour, it would be 9 o'clock Western time, California time, 9 a.m. Aaron Patzer is going to be on from Mint.com, which is a online budgeting site. He started that business himself, raised money to fund it. And again, there are relationships you can develop just one person at a time, but you're really on to something here, really on to something.
Yeah, and a lot of us started our businesses when we were your age and took them big time. So my literal hat's off to you.
Knock 'em dead, knock 'em dead.
And I want to really thank Elizabeth Canna for being here. Also, Alan Rosen from Junior's Cheesecakes. It's great of you to be here.
Thanks,
Terrific insight, terrific advice. And good to see you.
It was good to see you. I enjoyed it.
We will be right back. Tonight, Liz Clayman. Monday, Fox Business. This is the Fox Business Network, and we've queued up 2 hours of talk, of answering your questions about your business. Whether you are in one, you want to grow it, whether you've got an incredible idea and want to start a business, that's what we're here for in the next 2 hours here on the Fox Business Network. I'm Dagan McDowell, along with Adam Shapiro. You want to give them the number? I know it by heart, but
I don't know it by heart. I need to see it in the prompter. The phone number is
there you go.
877-249-9626.
And then email yourmoney@foxbusiness.com. And John Rutledge, he's here. He's in the house. He just wandered in. We were worried that he wasn't going to be here.
We'll give them a second to get mic'd up, though, because we're going to be talking about kind of some fun stuff, too, today.
Well, speaking of fun, our featured guest this hour, we want to introduce Neil Psyche, founder of Zero Motorcycles. And Neil, it's great of you to be here. We've been talking about your motorcycles for the last 2 hours. We were in the breaks, Adam. So I'm going to let Adam ask you the first question, Neil, because he's a bigger car nut and a bigger motorcycle nut than I am.
A lot of people think that an all-electric vehicle, Neil, whether it's a car or a motorcycle, doesn't have the same kind of power as, say, an internal combustion engine. And yet some of these electric vehicles are much stronger than what we're familiar with, some of the cars we might have learned to drive on. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. That's what I wanted to do, is make a product that was fun and environmentally responsible and saves you money riding down the road. But you got to have fun. Americans love fast cars and fast motorcycles, and they like their transportation to be fun. It's part of our culture.
And you've got a vehicle now, the Zero S, I believe it's called.
It's a street bike.
Yes.
Finally, you have a street bike.
Finally, I know this is the product that everyone's really been waiting for. It's a street legal motorcycle. It's for sale in the United States, Canada, and Europe. It's going to be a big, big seller. We've had a lot of demand for this product. We really took our time in developing this. It's been on the drawing board for 3 years, and it's just a revolution. We've added all kinds of new technology to the bike, and we've been riding it around for a few months now out in the public, and it's just stunning. People are just amazed.
What are some of the specs on it? I mean, it'll go, 60 miles on a charge?
Yes. it'll go a true 60 miles, and the top speed is about 60 or 70 miles an hour, depending how you gear it. It's made for urban commuting. It's made for people who live in the city, who have short commutes. You know, the average commute's only about 13 miles, so it's plenty of range to get to and from work about 4 times. And it's great for inner city commutes and little going errands and getting groceries, things like that.
Neil, please back up though, because again, you're an aeronautical engineer by training. You worked at NASA at one point during your career. How did you get from there to here?
Well, when I worked at NASA, we investigated a lot of transportation technologies because I was part of a state study to evaluate transportation solutions for the state of California on a governmental policy level. And electric vehicles were the clear winner. There's no argument from scientists that electric vehicles make a lot more sense than hydrogen or any other transportation solution. So
because we already
I've
have
always
the
wanted to make a
infrastructure for it.
business.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
not only
absolutely.
we have the infrastructure for electric, and people forget some of the first cars in this country. Tom Edison was building electric cars for Studebaker back in 1902. I mean, there was Detroit Electric. There was a whole infrastructure of electric vehicles 100 years ago.
That's right. And our motorcycle gets the economy is about 1 cent per mile to ride around. So with the typical use profile, you can ride around all year for like $100. It's practically free. It's just a miracle. So yeah, you're right. It's a very small drain on the electricity grid.
0 to
so
60.
Electricity.
How fast can you pop that? 0 to 60.
About 5 seconds. About 5 seconds. It's really, really fast. It's breathtakingly quick. So it's quicker than any car. It's made to just accelerate any car. You need that in an urban environment.
Sure.
You need to get away from cars.
Well, why motorcycles and not cars? Is that just a personal passion, or are cars down the road, I suppose, for you?
Well, I think there's a lot of roadblocks to the automobile industry to get a car in production and to pass all of the federal and international safety standards. Crashworthiness has to be tested in cars, and you don't have nearly that burden in motorcycles. There is regulations in motorcycles, but it's a much lower threshold.
And you also, we can talk about the economics of this as the hour progresses, but you're talking about a custom motorcycle that, you know, I guess the list price is close to $10,000 a pop. You can make good coin. You can, and the tax credit. You can make good coin on that. The profit margin is, what kind of profit are you making on that?
We have a good solid margin, so you know we're trying to we're trying to be north of 40% on our margins. But for the consumers, $10,000 is not an unreasonable price for a motorcycle, and we just got part of the stimulus package, so consumers are receiving a 10% federal rebate on their taxes. That means an actual check from the government for 10% off of your motorcycle. Plus, California has California Air Resources Board 15% off. Plus, some states have refunds of the state sales tax. So the actual cost for the consumers, it's very low.
Neil, we're so excited because Adam he can talk to you just about the motorcycles for the next hour, but we're so excited that you're here. Neil Psyche is our special guest this hour. Zero Motorcycles. You can call him, ask questions. It's 6 minutes past the hour, though. And you know what time that is? It's time to welcome our listeners on Sirius and XM Radio. I'm Daga McDowell, along with Adam Shapiro. This is your questions, your money, about your business in the next 2 hours on the Fox Business Network.
You can give us a call at 877-249-9626 or send us an email. Send it to yourmoney@foxbusiness.com.
We are talking to Neil Psyche, the founder of Zero Motorcycles, and we were just speaking with him. Former NASA engineer. He has a street bike. It's not just off-road. It's also on the street. That's what he's making. Again, they don't make any noise, though, do they, Neil? That's the problem.
Well, that's not a problem for my neighbors. My neighbors are always complaining about the noisy motorcycles. So if you ask them, they're like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing that ever happened to them.
Couldn't you get like an iPod attachment to it to like fake the sound so that the purists who want that revving engine can fake it?
Absolutely. We actually just hired an engineer who has built sound systems for motorcycles. So yeah, you can take a phone call. You know, we're working on getting it so you can take a phone call on your motorcycle. It's a new world out there.
It is a new world, and we're covering that world here. Neil, let's welcome our other guests who are going to be with us this hour. Chad Kinzelberg is joining us. He's with Scale Venture Partners. He can answer your questions about funding, and Chad is kindly going to do the pitch segment later in this hour. If you've been watching the last several weeks, you know what that is. We found this lucky viewer who's going to come on and pitch his idea, and Chad's going to weigh in. He can weigh in on anything you want to know. And as always, yay, Dani Babb is here, author of The Accidental Startup. And there she is, but lovelier in person, and John Rutledge, chairman of Rutledge Capital. We already have calls. You want to hit the line?
Yeah, we have a call right now from Gary in Michigan about getting a small business loan, right, Gary?
Yes, that's right.
Go ahead, Gary.
Well, I'm a small business owner, and what's so strange here is that I've got some money to be able to invest, and we're looking at about a $400,000 investment, whether it's to buy a business or to buy another house. But obviously, I'm a small business owner, so I'm a 1099. You know, that's how I get paid. And they've changed the rules here to where even though I can put 20% down, I've got great reserves, they're going to use my net income instead of using my gross income, and that all of a sudden, you know, it makes me not eligible to get the loan, even though my credit score, my median credit score is 803. So it's, I mean, to me, they're doing the opposite to try to help small business to try to buy things, because they've taken us out of the borrowing arena by using our net income instead of using our $1099. I just don't get it.
I'm smiling not because of this situation, but Dani Babb's head is about to explode because she has experienced this firsthand, and I know that you can, right?
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, no, Gary, I understand where you're coming from here. That is exactly the case. They're going to use what your net income is, and they're not going to let you add back any of your expenses, and they're going to want to take the last 2 years average. So if your last year was better than the previous year, they're going to use the average or the lesser of the 2 years. So you're really getting a double whammy. What I would do is make sure that they add back the depreciation. Not a lot of underwriters know that they can do that. They can, and a lot of them will. Chase is doing it, and Sterling Bancorp is doing it. I would check out both of those two lenders.
John?
Talk about why this is happening, because Danny's exactly right. This is happening because you've been sacrificed by Tim Geithner, the Doogie Howser of finance, who's decided that they want to rig the game so that banks can sell tons of assets to hedge funds. And I looked at a deal yesterday from the hedge fund perspective. We'll make 29% rate of return by buying TALF assets, which is like car loans. But that means the bank doesn't make money on anything else that's nearly as good as that. So what they've done is basically ordered their troops to shut down every piece of business except selling large chunks of paper to the government, which means business loans, credit lines, personal credit lines, business credit lines, and jumbo mortgages as well. So basically, the same thing that has been cracking open the banks is shutting down the small business sector. The irony is small business is all of the new jobs in the economy. And if you want to have jobs growing, and if you want to have Gary able to start a business and pay payroll, we've got to find a way to change that.
Yeah, and one more thing too, Gary, really quick, is if you can get that to 30% down, I know that's ridiculous. 20 should be more than 10 should be more than enough, heck, with that FICO score. But if you're above a 760 and you can get to 30% down, and I hate doing this because I loathe mortgage brokers, I'm sorry. I think that they're adding tons and tons of fees to people that they shouldn't have to pay. But this is a type of situation where they actually can be of some assistance to you. There are mortgage brokers that work with hundreds and hundreds of banks, and they know who's doing a so-called stated income loan, which is what you and I would tend to need, with a 760 or above FICO. So you might want to get in contact with a broker, even though it makes me cringe to say that.
Carefully.
Just shift gears really quick, but talk about funding nonetheless. I wanted to ask Chad. Chad, what kind of businesses are you funding right now? What's hot?
Well, what's hot right now is internet media and advertising, software as a service, open source software, and mobile. We're seeing lots of interesting companies doing a lot of innovative things. One of the common themes in a lot of these companies is doing things that will save people money. So, right now we're in an environment where a lot of people are trying to figure out how to ratchet back their expenses, and companies that can help either companies reduce their operating expenses or help individuals reduce their expenses tend to do very well right now.
Chad, you're going to be with us the whole hour as well, but Neil Psyche's here of Zero Motorcycles, Dani, John, and Chad. So get on the phone, pick it up, email us. Not if you're driving, but we're here for you to answer your questions about your money. You give them the number, 877-249-9626, and the email address, yourmoney@foxbusiness.com. See, I know it by heart.
I'm sending it out. I'm sending it out to all the psychics.
We're wide awake. It's not even the morning anymore. We're wide awake, and it's Saturday afternoon. We're here for you. More ahead. Welcome back, everybody. We were actually talking about Neil's Zero motorcycles during the break, and that's what our next caller wants to know. On the line is Tom from Illinois. Tom, go ahead, ask your question.
Yeah, for Neil, what are the engineering? What are the charging requirements? So one of these 5-watt, if you park it all day in the sun at work, will it? Is one of these 5-watt solars able to do it, or is the voltage requirements just not able to solar power it, recharge?
Yeah, the solar panels, you need a lot of solar panels, so it takes a fairly good array. Our charger typically charges it pretty quickly in about 4 hours, so it draws about 17 amps. So you're going to need a lot of wattage, typically something like at a house or a small shed to charge up.
Anyway, John, do you have a question about the battery?
Yeah, I just wondering, where'd you get the battery for this, Neil?
Well, we had to make it. So one of the big roadblocks to electric vehicles has always been the batteries. There's never been a good battery out there, and we had to develop our own battery technology. So we've got the smallest, lightest battery pack for the given amount of power that it has in the world.
Cool.
We've got
I was just thinking
really powerful battery pack, and we had patent pending technology to develop it. So
excellent. I was thinking my friends at
I had to
Johnson
spend years to
Controls
do.
R&D would be very interested in trying to be helpful because they've got operations they're working on in Asia that are trying to do battery development too. But that's very cool. That's very
Neil, is that in the plan? Because again, this is a non-toxic battery that you can put in a landfill. Is that really what this is about? Is this not a motorcycle company, but a battery company?
Well, we want to focus on being a motorcycle company, and that's a really good question because I think that the battery technology, it's going to change, and we don't want to make it a core competence of our company to do this battery. We wanted to get going, and it's going to allow us to break into this market, but we wanted to focus on the motorcycles itself because you're right, there are a lot of other big companies that are going to develop better batteries. We already know of 10 different factories around the world that they're going to introduce breakthroughs in battery technology next year.
Would new batteries be? Could you plug in someone else's battery into your bike? Are there going to be some kind of efficiencies to allow that?
Absolutely. We've gone out of our way to make a modular battery system, and this is something that no one else is doing. Is we have a battery that's just a square box with a single connector and a computer connector on it.
Cool.
So that we can upgrade our own batteries. We can use batteries from other different suppliers, and this is something I think all electric vehicle manufacturers have to get on board is some sort of an upgradable, interchangeable battery, so we don't make a lot of obsolete vehicles.
It is a great idea. Well, speaking of ideas, Mark is on the line from Minnesota. Mark, go ahead, ask your question.
Yes, we have a great concept for a business here, but we need help starting from the ground up. Are there companies out there that help financing anybody that's really, needing a lot of help to get started?
What kind? You have to give us an idea what kind of business it is.
Sure. We have a great concept for a restaurant. It's Southern style barbecue, and not too many people at all are doing that in Minnesota.
How did you? I want Neil and also Chad, because you're in the business of funding, but further up the scale rather than people who don't even have the business yet. But Neil, how did you get your initial money to start this business? Did you just save?
Yeah, well, my wife and I, we did save a lot of our money, and we wanted to do this, so we had to live without any pay for a couple years, and we also put our own cash into the business. But then I was very involved in the motorcycle and bicycle industry, so I had a lot of industry friends, companies that provide angel funding. So we got a round of angel funding, and then we got a round of private equity funding.
But John, a lot of people have the idea to start a business in their city, a restaurant, and that's what this guy who's calling in wants to know about.
Yeah, absolutely. What you're trying to do, Mark, is a tough financing deal. Financiers won't be, in general, venture capital guys. They might be early stage, leverage buyout kind of guys, growth capital guys. There are people in the finance industry that do that. But what they're going to be looking for when you bring them a concept is, do you have an experienced operator who has built from the ground up new restaurants, turned them profitable, and sold them before? Because they're going to be looking for how you can take this idea and not just make 1 or 2 or 3 restaurants, but scale it up to 10 or 20 or 50 restaurants so they can then take that to the capital market. And so what I would do is locally in your town, find the most experienced restaurant operator you can that meets those criteria and bring that to a financing source.
Chad, really quickly, because again, people get to lay out what we're talking about here, because you're in venture cap. You've heard Neil talking about
starting with an angel is a really good route to take, because not only can these angels provide the capital, but as John suggested, a lot of times they will have the expertise as well as the time to devote to cultivating the business and working with that entrepreneur on how to really build out the business and how to start to scale this up. So a lot of people have the misconception that angels and venture capitalists are somehow competitive with one another, and more frequently we work together. So just based on the brief description that I heard about this business, I would really encourage him to seek out an angel that has the relevant experience in the restaurant industry, because not only can you then get the money that you need, but you can probably also get some advice. And then the final ingredient is you're probably going to need some seasoned professionals that have a lot of operating experience, more than just a single person that understands how to, run the front office part of it. And that's another area where the angels can help.
That's seconding what John said. Chad, thanks for that.
We want
so much more ahead, though.
Yeah, because it's about business. It's about answering your questions. So keep the calls and email coming.
We'll be back with more answers to your questions about your business here on Fox Business. Okay, pick up that phone and start calling and asking us some questions about your business. I know you want to. If you're in the Northeast, it's looking dreary. I know you're watching at home. But again, it's your questions, your money, and your business. And on the phone right now is Anthony in Florida asking about his construction business. Anthony, go ahead.
For about 10 years and been pretty successful with it. As the market turned down, so did business. We lost probably 75% of our business. We're still open, we're still kicking, but the struggle is getting harder and harder. 50% of my employees trying to keep things going. Where do I get help to stay open to get through this rut? And the other thing is, to support my family, I waited, was patient to build the house. Now I built the house, now I'm at the risk of losing everything because the business is going.
LLC, and definitely get a homestead on that house so that if you contractors instead of employees. If you can take, I don't know if you're structured so that your employees are actually on and so on to work. There's about 6 or 7 rules on irs.gov that allow you to convert an employee to a contractor. That can save you a boatload of money.
John, any advice on how to manage through this downturn because, again, he's already cut half his staff.
Yeah, I mean, amen to Danny's points.
Right.
But basically, it's strictly a question of survival until the market comes back. Markets always come back, but this one was hit very hard. And a lot of the properties, as Danny said, have been damaged in the course of being abandoned.
That you might want to do is contact some of the local banks, the community banks that have lost a lot of the homes in the area to foreclosure. A lot of them are trying to find ways to, kind of spruce up the homes just a little bit so they can get them off the market and beat the Countrywides and the WAMUs out there. So you might be able to pick up some work that way.
Again, it's day by day, as
Yeah.
John pointed out.
Hang in there.
Neil,
I wanted to stay to something that we focus on, something that we could deliver a performance.
Seat needs a little bit more padding, and you were saying you're having trouble finding the right foam. Have you found it yet?
Well, that's always a trade-off. We do have an uncomfortable seat, and most motorcycles, high-performance motorcycles, they're a little bit uncomfortable. So, they're not like a couch riding around a lazy boy.
I think the critic needs to cut back on the pizza.
Yeah, there we go. It's a trade-off though on our particular bike because the harder foam lasts a lot longer, and I didn't want to use a soft foam that wears away in a year and people have to replace.
What
the
about
seat.
the NASA memory foam? That's used in all the beds.
That's an embarrassment. That leaves a little embarrassing mark after you get off the bike. So I don't really do that.
very good, Neil. At least you were thinking about it. I'm actually, the only downside to having Neil on the show today is that my husband is watching, and we have a collection of Vespas, and so I have a feeling that a Zero is somewhere in our near future, Neil. So Chad Kinselberg is also here from Scale Venture Partners, Dani and John, as always. And coming up, the pitch. You don't want to miss it. It's great stuff. Chad is going to be hearing a pitch from a budding entrepreneur. It's a good one. You don't want to miss it. You got the number now.
Yeah, I've got the number. I'm cheating, though. I'm reading it off of a card. Your questions are, though, still crucial and important, so give us a call, 877-249-9626, as I try to memorize that number. And you can email us at yourmoney@foxbusiness.com. Someone pitch memory, enhancement, and I can do well with that number.
It's something called a Nintendo and the brain game. I'll get you that for
I'm
your
gonna need it.
birthday. But don't forget, tonight you can tune in and check out Liz Clayman. She has a special, The Richest Minds. You can see it tonight at 9 p.m. on Saturday, and then Sunday evening at 10 p.m. And this is the Fox Business Network. You'll see Liz and those 3 billionaires and us in true HD. Time now for the pitch. It's time to bring in our venture capitalist, This is for the chance. Gives anybody out there the chance to pitch their business idea to a venture capitalist. And of course, our VC of the day, so graciously here is Chad Kinzelberg from Scale Venture Partners. And the pitcher is Sam Nordoff from Dallas. Okay, Sam, this is your, keep it tight, make it good. Go ahead, pitch your idea.
All right, well, the idea is basically to take the jukebox single play concept from the past and apply it to the current technology today, where you pay for a single play song and can do this in the convenience of your own home, or potentially do it in a restaurant setting where you could order the song that you would like to play while you're having dinner, or in a Starbucks or elsewhere. So there's both the private setting, which would be when you're entertaining at your home, somebody could come in and select songs they'd like to hear while they're at your party, let's say, and then in the public setting, which would be more in the restaurant environment. And you can either buy it by a per song system or by a block of time. So there's a lot of options for it, but it allows the music industry to go out and capture additional revenue sources that they're not tapping now.
Chad, go ahead. Feel free to, you take it away. You grill Sam as much as you need to.
Okay, fair enough. Look, to start with, I think that this is a very exciting idea. Jukeboxes have existed probably for over a half century, and as we're moving to this new environment of digital delivery of music anywhere, anytime, and with any device, it seems that you've discovered a need that was previously filled where there's a gap right now. So the big picture at a 50,000-foot level, I like what you're doing because it seems like there is genuine demand and that there's a real value proposition. The other thing that I like about it is this is a very large market opportunity, right? So online music and music in general is something like a $5 billion business, and it's being radically disrupted right now by the internet. And so there's a lot of money sloshing around out there, and for people with really great ideas like yours, there's the opportunity to really capitalize on it. And another thing that appeals to me about the business is that it sounds like something that could spread virally, and I don't mean this like the swine flu, but I do mean that if people are in a public setting or even at a private party and they're selecting songs in a jukebox, they see it, they tell a friend, and it can spread very quickly. So there's definitely a lot of appealing characteristics. Just off the top of my head, there are definitely some issues that you'll want to consider as you move forward. I think one of the big ones is working with the labels. So in the music industry, the labels really control everything, and they have been very tough in the negotiation on royalties. So they really command high royalties with a lot of restrictions on usage and often want equity in your company. So that's something that you'll have to grapple with. One of the things that you might want to consider is really thinking about orienting your business towards partnering with companies that have already secured those rights with the labels. So, the obvious one is iTunes, right, where you have a thriving business with millions of users, and those users are already accustomed to paying for their music. So this would be a variation of that where you exercise more control in a group environment. But I would also encourage you to think very broadly about those partnerships. iTunes is the obvious one, but there's a lot of these free internet radio services that are streaming music and are looking for additional revenue streams. And I could see you forging a partnership with them where you're providing some additional software and giving people the ability to have this jukebox experience without having to go through the complexity as well as the expense of trying to negotiate with the label. So, those are a couple things that you should think about. Do you have any initial thoughts on distribution and how you would really scale up your customer base?
I haven't really gone through that yet. This has gone from an idea to going on national TV on Fox here within a few days. So,
well,
I guess only on Fox and only in America. But I think the potential is there to, let's say, establish what you'd call iTunes-friendly restaurants or bars or Starbucks, let's say. Right. And then when you enter that facility, you know that you can order a song by your phone, by a PDA, by a touch screen that's in the facility, and the proprietor of the facility would also receive some revenue from this. So people can benefit, not only the artist and the music industry, but the restaurant that chooses to go with this program could have some revenue stream there. And it also allows to expand globally, where let's say you can collect a royalty from a Beyonce song that's being played in a bar in Beijing. So it has, I think, huge potential, but as far as the framework, it would have to really try to be tied in with either iTunes or with some of the other major music players to get it going.
That's right. So, I mean, I think you're headed in the right direction, and you have iTunes on one side where people are paying for the music. Then you have the free services, whether that's MySpace Music or Pandora or iMeme, where it's a free streaming service. But in all of those cases, they don't really have the ability to do this on a group basis and to allow a large number of people to select different songs. And that's where I think you've got at least the kernel of a really good idea. And everything that you talked about in terms of having the restaurant owners participate in the revenue stream and the incremental revenue stream to the other participants is really appealing. So, I think at this point, one of the best things that you can do is start doing some research and start developing a business plan. And one of the things that I firmly believe is planning is everything, plans are nothing. And what I mean by that is just going through the exercise of trying to understand who the different players are, how the economics work, what would the distribution look like, will start to help you form your thoughts about the right strategy, the right way to go to market. The other thing I would encourage you to do is there's a lot of people in the music industry that are, to use the polite term, are being displaced, right? It's an industry that's in a lot of turmoil. You might be able to find some really smart and senior people in the music industry that have both the expertise as well as the connections to help you execute this plan. But I definitely see that this is an idea that can have very broad appeal and one that has the ability to expand pretty quickly, given kind of the distribution that you see on the internet and the success of a lot of these social networks that have incorporated music. So it sounds like a winner.
So give it a grade from A to, well, F, Chad.
A to F. I would say that this is an A-, right? I really like, it's a big market opportunity. It's a compelling value proposition. I think he's done a good job of articulating the idea. I can sense his passion for the idea. And, the only question marks have a lot to do with the distribution and the royalty structures and just some of the economics. And that's what you're going to have to focus on. But you're onto something here.
Sam?
Well, thank you.
From idea to television, national television, Sam Nordoff joining us from the fine state of Texas. Sam, I'm glad you could be here. I hope that was helpful. Keep thinking, keep working.
Thank you very much.
We'll have you back.
All
6
righty.
months from now, stay in touch with us. Sam, it was good to see you.
Do you have a small business idea is a winner?
Do you have an idea?
I have an idea.
Do you really?
I keep it to myself, though.
That's no fun. I think we need to have him share his.
Yeah, we'll make Adam share his idea
It has
when we
to do
come
with
back.
cars, and it has to do with old cars, replacing all of the drivetrains and engines with modern equipment.
Oh, man, I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. I've never had a business idea because I'm a terrible, terrible manager. I like being the worker, not the manager. At least I can admit that. No, at least I can admit that.
Adam
All
can hire you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. We got so much more straight ahead. Neil Seki is still with us. Ted Kinselberg from Scale Venture Partners, of course. John Rutledge and Dani Babb. We'll be right back, everybody. Stay with us. This show is about bringing people together. You've got ideas, we've got experts, we're in the middle, and I just like hearing stories, because business TV is about more than just stocks going up and down. It's
Today it's about cheesecake.
individuals. It's about motorcycles and cheesecake, two of Adam's
right over
favorite
there.
things. That's what it's about. And it's about you and building a business. And Kathy in Kalamazoo, Michigan, Neil, listen up. She wrote in and said, "Dear Neil, I've enclosed a picture of the auto rickshaw that I bought last year to help with what was then $4.37 a gallon for gasoline. We have a photo of it. It's red with a canopy. It's a ragtop. I'm a 60-year-old grandmother, and I would love to convert this to electric, even if I need to get a little trailer behind it to compensate for the batteries. I've tried to find someone to do this conversion, even though those people at our local universities and community colleges, but they all laugh at me. And I'm really serious about this. It's considered a motorcycle, so the insurance is cheap, and everybody looks at me when I go down the road, and I provide smiles to people. Also, how can I find somebody necessary to do the conversion to an electric vehicle without it costing me my entire retirement fund? This is not a business idea, but maybe it is, Neil. Do you have any guidance for her?
Yeah, I know several people who are doing these kind of conversions out here in California, and maybe that's part of the problem is out here in California, these things are pretty popular to do conversions, and then those kind of vehicles, three-wheeled vehicles enclosed like that, they're already for sale here in Los Gatos. We've got a store that sells them, and there's a couple places that already sell electrified versions of that vehicle. So, yeah, my advice is keep looking around for somebody who'll convert it. You'll find somebody who can do that conversion, and the other idea of converting classic cars to modern engines or modern electric drivetrains, I think it's a good one.
Neil, if you want to talk about that after the program, I'm happy to go there with you because I've already got the body shop.
We've got this question the wrong way around.
Yeah.
First of all, the people who are laughing at you in these junior colleges are idiots. No one should laugh at a new idea. Second of all, what you need to do is buy one of Neil's motorcycle, take that to a local converter, and have them convert it to a three-wheel drive. That would be very simple as opposed to trying to convert the guts of a three-wheel vehicle over to electricity.
It's going to be cost prohibitive in her case to do it. It'd be cheaper just
Depends
to buy it.
Depends on what she wants to pay and what it's worth to her. No, I think you could do this and you could turn it into an interesting product. That sort of stuff is normally done by third-party guys who have a practice that's a local practice. There will be people near your town who convert motorcycles into three-wheel drive vehicles already.
We have people around us who a lot of biodiesel conversions. Of
course.
Which, you know, you buy an old junky Mercedes-Benz and it smells bad, but when it runs,
that's before the conversion.
Well, anyway, we digress.
Yeah.
But
well, you know, if you're not interested in performance, you can make a vehicle and convert it to an electric drivetrain or some other drivetrain. But what we've done is that we've done our design from the ground up, and what happens is you end up with a vehicle that's half the weight of a conventional gas motorcycle, or our motorcycle is only 225 pounds. That's the secret to getting long range and high performance. So I'm not a big fan of conversions in general because you do end up with a vehicle that's a lot heavier than if you just started from scratch and built everything the way it should be.
Neil, I have a question for you. We have a lot of people that call in and they're currently in a job in corporate America and they want to learn how to transition out of corporate America while they're still pursuing their idea and then eventually take their idea forward. Is that the situation that you were in? How did you manage your day job and your potential entrepreneurial idea?
Yeah, well, I used to have a day job, and it was a lot of security.
Don't you like how people act like you when you run your own business? You're working morning, noon, and night. Like you barely sleep. But go
absolutely.
ahead. I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
No, the days when I worked for somebody else, those were the salad days for sure, because it was no stress, and I never lost a night's sleep worrying about my employees or taxes or the business itself, revenues and the economy. It's a hard thing to do to transition from working for somebody else and then working for yourself. I've owned my own product development business for 18 years, and so I've been doing it for a while, but it was a big transition for myself and my wife and my family to put all of our assets on the line here and start this business.
But if it was NASA,
it's really tough.
If it was NASA, Neil, we're going to make all the government employees mad. Government employee jobs are day jobs. You get to go home at night, and you can have a second business running in the evening. When you run your own business, it's 24 hours a day, and there's no way out.
So you need to, Adam, go ahead, Chad.
Well, I think one of the big challenges when somebody is leaving a large corporation and becoming an entrepreneur is you're used to having a whole support system. So there are people in finance or HR or product development. And suddenly as an entrepreneur, you're doing everything from being the CEO to the janitor and everything in between. And that proves to be challenging for a lot of entrepreneurs.
One quick thing I just wanted to ask Neil, because you brought up taxes. Neil, you make those bikes in California, high tax state. Why did you stay there? Why are you there?
Well, we're here because of the electronics. We have 3 microprocessors on our motorcycle, and we wanted to capture all the intellectual property for the microprocessor technology and software. So we had to get a lot of Silicon Valley people, a lot of microchip developers and software developers to work on our product. But you know, I will say that I think California is a great state to actually do this. We you know, the Silicon Valley contracted a lot after the tech bust. And the rent on our property is extremely reasonable because there's a lot of empty businesses here in the Silicon Valley. So, you know, we heard another caller talk about purchasing a property, and really for a business, there's no need. I mean, I get offers, multiple offers every week to rent businesses in my area because they're empty, and you know they're giving me such incentives as free rent for a year and things like that.
Stay right there, everybody.
Yeah, Chad and Neil, we're going to be back in just a second with more answers to your questions ahead, so keep calling us and keep the emails coming in.
Stay with us, everybody. Let's get right to the phones. Bill is on the line from California. Bill, go ahead, ask your question.
Hi. My wife work went from casual Friday to casual every day, and from the tennis shoes that she wore on the cheap carpet, she was getting static shock. And I developed a device that completely eliminates the static from the body and because of the clothes. And she was bringing home shopping bags full of tennis shoes for me to modify, and I went and got a patent on that idea. And I'm an engineer, and I don't know how to proceed to market with this.
Who wants to jump in?
Well, I have one quick question. Is it a provisional patent, or is it a full patent that you went to an attorney to get?
It's a full patent.
It's a full patent. All right. Just 2 quick websites for everybody else jumps in here. I would check out gobignetwork.com, which is taking a patent to market, and I would check out clubefactory.com, which helps people take ideas that they have patents on to market.
Is your product something that clips onto another guy's product, or is it something that has to get manufactured into the product?
No, it's something that anybody can install at home. It's very, very easy and very simple.
Because I think the big question for you is whether providing that to one shoe company so that they can use it for a competitive advantage and excess sales or margin is the best way for you to go, or to sell your product directly to a broader market without that shoe partner. If you wanted to partner up with an Adidas or a Nike or something, that's a way to do it. If you go the other way, you're really trying to sell what won't be a very high-priced product, which means this one screams out for the infomercial guys of the world, where you're trying to sell the $29.95, $49.95 on TV. But I wouldn't throw away the idea of partnering with a shoe company.
Neil, again, different bit.
In order to get
Chad, yeah, go ahead.
Well, just in order to get started, you might also want to think about some regional distribution through retailers. I assume that there's probably portions of the country where this problem is more prevalent. And so you might be able to test market in cities without a whole lot of capital and with a few retailers to see what kind of demand is out there and to see what type of pricing makes sense. And then you can start to develop an idea on, gee, is this something that I want to partner with the shoe manufacturers, or is this something that I want to do on a much more mass market retail basis, or perhaps, as John suggested, more of a direct response television. But you know, I think that there are opportunities to experiment on a smaller basis and see if there are really, no pun intended, legs to this idea.
Neil, I know any guidance from you would be greatly appreciated.
Oh, yeah. You know, I love licensing my patents. It's just wonderful to get a check in the mail and no strings are attached. Someone else is manufacturing the item. So that's the first thing I would ask myself is whether I really wanted to go take the hard road and sell this myself, or is it's much better to license this idea. The second thing I always tell people is in my experience, don't be afraid of people ripping off your ideas. If you have a patent application, you have a solid patent application, you can take it to the big manufacturers, and even without a non-disclosure, they're not going to actively try to rip you off. They're going to probably be very honest and very straightforward with you and give you a royalty if your idea has merit and they use it. So I've always had really good luck licensing my patents to bigger companies.
How many patents do you hold, Neil?
That's a good question. I've co-authored a lot of them. I've been sole author on a half dozen or so patents.
Like what?
Well, for our motorcycle company, we have our battery technology. Rock climbing gear, I'm a very avid mountaineer, so those guys hanging off the ledges on El Cap in Yosemite, I've got patents on rock climbing gear. So all kinds of things for bicycle suspension technology. I was one of the early designers of full suspension mountain bikes, and I have numerous patents for suspension technology, which I still get royalty checks for the suspension technology in the mountain bike industry. So patents are a
when I
great
didn't
thing.
When I didn't live in this, what hole of New York City, I was an avid mountain biker. And it's the only thing that I was ever good at athletically. Most of your bike manufacturers use your technology, use your patents, use the idea, the full suspension?
There's a lot of them, yeah. A lot of my designs that are on the market right now, they're mine. Mostly on the high end, very technical race bikes. My bicycles have won probably a dozen national and international World Cup championships.
Neil, we're learning. I mean, every second that ticks by, we're learning something new about you. But again, multi-talented. And again, we think about. He was pointing out, John. You think about businesses. You have an idea and you want to manufacture it, but there are different avenues that you can pursue. If you have a plethora of ideas, there are different ways that you can make money on.
Not everybody is good at doing everything. So you have to figure out what is your strength and do that. Don't be afraid of approaching Nike or Adidas or someone. They'll have a product development department. They'll have a person there that'll talk with you about this. The other thing is the medical industry, the industrial gas industry, the work boots for the oil industry. Those are all places where sparks make things explode. And you can have a safety application for this. But the big market is the big branded tennis shoe retailers.
Thanks to Neil Psyche of Zero Motorcycles, among his many ideas. Neil, it was great of you to be here, as well as Chad Kinzelberg from Scale Venture Partners. Chad, thank you for playing ball and listening to that pitch. It was a pleasure. And of course, John Rutledge and Dani Babb, they're not going anywhere. Neither are we. More ahead. And cheesecake. We'll be right back. That's what we're talking about here on Your Questions, Your Money. Food. The food business, in particular, cheesecake. I'm Dagan McDowell, along with Adam Shapiro. We want to hear from you. This hour, we're talking about stimulating the economy and our appetites one person at a time by starting a small business, grow, forget small, just starting a business. Don't think small, think big.
Think success.
Exactly.
If you think it, you can make it happen. If you don't think it, what is it? Aim for the stars, you fall on the roof. Aim for the roof, you hand on the floor.
I love that.
Put down that cup of coffee. Give us a call at 877-249-9626 or email us at yourmoney@foxbusiness.com.
With us this hour, we want to welcome in Elizabeth Canna from Canna and Company. She's joining us. She is joining us via remote. You will see a picture, a photo, a shot of this lovely woman coming up in a short while. She's here to talk about branding yourself, just even from the initial concept of an idea, branding yourself, marketing, and, Dani's an expert in marketing and everything else. Dani Babb, of course, is here, author of The Accidental Startup. John Rutledge hasn't gone anywhere either. He's chairman of Rutledge Capital. And our special guest for this hour, Alan Rosen. He's the third-generation owner of, these desserts speak for themselves, Junior's Cheesecakes. An amazing entrepreneur. We're going to talk about the restaurant business, cookbooks, recipes, the whole shebang. Alan, it's great of you to be here.
Nice to be here. Thank you.
Where do you go? Because again, people in New York City know Junior's. You say Junior's, they know exactly what you're talking about. But right now in this economy, how are you growing the business?
We're growing the business organically. We're doing what my grandfather taught me, in the 20s, which was put it on the plate. And if you deliver that day in and day out, and everybody who comes to our restaurants this Saturday intends on returning next Saturday, we believe we'll continue to be successful.
Go ahead.
Are you selling? It's not just the restaurants, though, don't you? You can mail order. Is it?
We do mail. We sort of have like a 5 or 6 pronged approach to our business. We have sit-down restaurants. We have a mail order business, which involves our selling cheesecakes on QVC. It involves our own mail order business and our own website. It involves a small wholesale business. And it also involves a catering business, a bar business. We like to think we have 5 or 6 businesses going within one umbrella.
Did you, because this business, to back up, was started by your grandfather in 1950, right?
Correct. Election Day 1950, my grandfather had a restaurant in the 20s in downtown Brooklyn. Election Day 1950, he quite frankly went broke in the late 40s. The war had ended, and he saw a need for a more family-style restaurant, something that under-promised and over-delivered on value, a place where families could go and dine. And he opened this restaurant, Junior's, and the rest, as they say, is history. But part of his methodology was, he said, if we're going to be a great restaurant in New York, we have to have great cheesecake. And he would do laboratory-like experiments, go back to the restaurant, go to different restaurants, eat cheesecake, bake cheesecakes, and he hit upon this formula, and it literally hasn't changed in...
And it's secret.
It's not exactly. No, to be quite honest with you, it's not a secret. Cream cheese, fresh eggs, heavy cream, sugar, a touch of vanilla. We take our time with it, we blend it, we bake it in a water bath. No matter how busy we get, we still bake 88 cheesecakes at a time. We haven't really gone the mass production route. We're afraid of change, to be quite honest. And we've stuck to what got us here.
And it's interesting to note, now, Alan, did you expand since you've been running the business?
Yes.
It was just you that expanded it into... Because Junior's was a restaurant in Brooklyn,
right?
And now it's a restaurant in Brooklyn and Times Square and Grand Central and where else? If I'm missing anywhere,
I'll tell you one other place in a second. But yes, my grandfather, my father, my uncle were typical first-generation restaurateurs. They went to the restaurant every day. They sat in the dining room. They watched the wait staff. They had no management help. They had no assistants. They had no office, and they literally watched every plate and had a concept, and they stuck with it. It was serving corned beef, it was serving pastrami, it was serving a great meal for a great price. And when myself and my brother joined the business, we said, we think there's more there. And we don't want to do it, in 1 minute. We want to do it sort of organically, in a grassroots sort of way. And the cheesecake was the natural extension.
If you're getting a national reputation, would there ever be plans, maybe franchising in other markets, other cities?
I'm not a big fan of franchising, only because for us, we believe the control that we have over our business is what delivers that quality. And it takes, as my dad says, 60 years to build a reputation, and it can take 6 minutes to lose it. And our modus operandi is not to have the biggest business in the country. Our deal is to have one of the best businesses in the country, whatever the size is.
What percentage of your business today is coming from your online system?
Our online system, though it gets the most appeal and everyone thinks it's the biggest, it's probably only 20% of our business.
Well, there's growth potential there then.
It's a much easier growth entity because you don't really need to spend the amount of capital that you do like to open a restaurant. To build a typical restaurant today costs anywhere from $2 to $7 million, depending on the size.
And cakes travel well. I bought my wedding cake online.
Right.
It was shipped in plastic, showed up, boom. It thawed out by the time it showed up, so it was perfect. But right now, stay right there. It's 6 minutes after the hour, and time to welcome our radio listeners on Sirius and XM. Thanks for joining us. I'm Daga McDowell, along with Adam Shapiro.
If you have a question about starting your own small business, we want to hear from you. Email us at yourmoney@foxbusiness.com or call us at 877-249-9626. We're going to go to the phones, but real quick.
Yes.
At the end of the table, what is that giant chocolate wonderful cheesecake?
That is a devil's food cheesecake. My dad actually created that. Over breakfast one morning, he said, why don't we take a plain cheesecake and put it inside of a chocolate layer cake? So it's an all-chocolate layer cake with a plain cheesecake in the middle.
Oh, my word, Alan. That's just... Oh, but before we go to the phones, where's the other restaurant? Because I mentioned Brooklyn, Times Square, and
our main restaurant in Brooklyn. We have a restaurant on 45th Street between Broadway and 8th. 2 small stores in Grand Central Station. Then we have one at the MGM Grand Casino in Foxwoods, Connecticut.
When did you open the Foxwoods?
12 months ago. So this May 17th will be a year.
So how's it doing? I mean, before we move on, how's the business doing? How are you holding up?
You know what? I used to joke that down 10% is the new up. we are holding very strong. I actually see it turning around in the past 2-3 months. We're actually starting to see our comps go up.
What have you done? Are you discounting specials?
We are not. I'm not a big fan of discounting, but we have not raised prices this year. But I believe you just keep delivering. Okay, you really got to buckle down, as they say, and focus on what got you there. You have to have quality food, quality service, clean restaurants. Your staff's got to look good. They got to feel good about it, and you got to continue doing what got you there.
The Cheesecake Index.
The Cheesecake Index.
On the phone, let's get a caller. Dave is joining us from California. Dave, go ahead. What do you want to know?
Well, first off, is 10 o'clock too early to start eating cheesecake? Because it looks really good.
No, that's it is never too early to eat cheesecake.
All right.
I'll eat it at 5 o'clock in the morning
Eggs,
for breakfast.
dairy, it's healthy.
Breakfast
Exactly.
of champions.
Well, good morning. What we're trying to do is we're building a renewable energy company, and we're going to do sugar cane to ethanol, and then you combust the gas, and you turn that into green electricity, and then we'll also have some biogas coming off of it and organic fertilizer. It's a really ambitious program. It's not unlike what they're doing in Brazil. We're going to do all this in California, including growing the sugar cane. And our biggest challenge at this point is going from friends and family money, which has been significant. It's been about a $6 million raise, but getting it to the big guys. How do you get the word out about really good, clean electricity and energy, and then getting the big guys, and not necessarily venture capitalists, but more of the private equity guys to take a look?
Well, first and foremost, you can pitch your idea here, maybe, but send us an email with more of the details about how we can reach you in future weeks. But John, that's because $6 million from friends and family is a significant chunk of change. But how does he take it to the next level?
Well, you have to find this is something you'll have to find a person who is already specializing in the area, because it's done that way in the finance business. I'm on the board of the company that runs the largest clean tech energy fund in the world. I'd be happy to send your email to them if you want to do that. But clean tech energy is now a huge enterprise. Especially pension funds are interested in it for political reasons, and state governments and other regulatory agencies. So I think what you need to, the other place you can go in California is go through the electricity company, who has already ways of tapping clean energy money out of the federal government, and their new product or R&D operation may have a way of helping bring you in. They will end up being your customer, but the truth is you need a clean tech energy private equity guy to do this. And if you get it in the hands of any private equity guy, this community, as our friends will tell you, is very tightly wired together. Most deals you see are not good for you. They're good for someone else. So people pass these deals around to a specialist. So tap into a private equity guy and ask him to get it in the hands of a clean tech energy person.
Also, don't discount the grants. Right now, there's $11.4 million being pumped into green energy grants, and a lot of them are coming out of the state of California. So I would check out business.gov and click on California and see what's out there. And I would also go to grants.gov and see what's changing on a daily basis. I would check out and see what the options are there.
And the state of California probably has an area of the same,
on
the same sort of area, right?
Yeah.
We've got so much more. I have a quick question, because I'm not just staring at the cheesecakes here, Alan. I'm staring at the packaging. Who gave birth to this packaging? It's very distinctive. Without even seeing the name, if you're walking down the street with a box, you know it's Junior's.
It literally hasn't changed in 58 years, 59 years. The advertising firm that comes in and says, "Hey, we got to change this packaging," they're probably not going to be working for us very long.
Well, Tropicana learned that lesson, didn't they? Is that not for people who don't know?
I know, because I have 3 children who drink quite a bit of orange juice. It's night and day. It's a mistake.
They changed it. They paid Peter Arnell to redo the packaging, and they took away the orange, and then every container looked exactly the same.
It looks like a private label package.
Well, they went back to the old stuff.
And that's not what people are paying for.
Right.
People are paying for a premium brand with a premium product and premium packaging and something distinctive. You're going to walk into someone's home with the finest cheesecake in the land, you're making a statement. You're saying, "Here, I brought you the best," or "I'm serving my family the best," and your packaging should reflect that.
Okay. We've got so much more straight ahead.
A full hour of your questions about your small business to come, so keep your emails and your phone calls coming. And we're going to include Alan in that, maybe some advice for some small business people.
Because so many people, when they think about business, they're good cooks and they think food businesses. Remember Mary with her sauce. So email, call in, you can talk to Alan. We have Elizabeth Canna as well on branding, Junior's big brand, distinctive packaging. How can you do the same for your business? We can answer all of that. 877-249-9626 or your money at foxbusiness.com. You're watching Fox Business this Saturday morning and afternoon, so stay with us.